Welcome once again to this podcast called The Next Level. And in this episode, we are going to talk about reading, which I personally consider one of the keys to really improve your English. But I have a very beautiful guest, and she couldn't have um, chosen a better scenario for this topic than this beautiful library that you can see in the background. Teacher Ellie, welcome. Thank you very much for accepting this invitation.
Thank you so much, Alejo, for having me here today. And thank you because I'm sharing a little bit of my own personal world, my books, my library.
I know. Look at that. How many
Yeah.
books do you have? That's part of
Oh
the
my God.
library.
And this is part of the library, yes, because
This part.
I have another library
Okay.
with more Egyptology books.
I have the pleasure of knowing your father who really loves reading. Would you say that you are this way? You read a lot because you saw your father reading a lot?
Yes, Alejo, he really set a very good example for me when I was growing up because I have a memory when I was about 5 years old, and he showed me his library because he had one of the first floor of the house, another library on the second floor of the house, and he told me, "Would you like to meet your best friends?" And I said, "Yes, I would like to meet them." And he showed me the books. Okay,
Wow.
here they are. Because these friends will never judge you. These friends will never tell you, "Oh, it has been a long time since the last time you called me or you say hello to me." They're always there for you.
Wow.
It doesn't matter if you take one day and you start reading and then you just quit and then you grab another book. They will not judge. They are
Wow.
here for you, and they have doors that will open new worlds for you. If you want to travel without moving just one finger, you can travel from here, from the library.
Wow. I cannot think of a better way to start this conversation than that lovely story. I think that's just encouraging, inspiring, just great. Okay, so let's talk about this. Let's imagine this scenario. We have people who have studied English in some parts of their lives, and they stopped studying, but they still remember how to communicate. But nevertheless, they think they are not still very solid, strong. And that's why they bought this book and they are watching this episode and this podcast. We are going to focus on reading. First question, even though it's kind of logical, but I want to hear your point of view. Why is it reading something important in developing a good level of English?
Okay, teacher Alejo. Something that reading can give us in that process, in that learning process, is that we can acquire new vocabulary.
All right.
Because when you read, you have not just to follow a structure of the language, but also to know the words in order to understand the message within the text that you are reading. So when you start this process and you combine reading to your learning process in a second language, it's a very useful tool to acquire new words, but not isolated words. That's the magic of tests and books, that you can learn the new words in a context. So
Mhm.
you can give meaning, and when you can give meaning to something, it's something that is gonna stick on your mind. You're not gonna forget that because it's gonna be a meaningful learning, because you can connect with the pictures on the head on your head, sorry, that you have because of the book that you're reading. So when you connect to images, to you connect something new to an emotion, is something that you won't forget.
All right. Okay, but there's a big difference between just reading and reading to get vocabulary, reading to study. And I'm telling you this because a lot of students say, I hear teachers saying, if you want to improve your English, you can watch movies. And I watch a lot of movies every day, but I don't improve. And I say, well, because you are watching as an entertainment, but not as
Mhm.
an academic purpose. Is there any path? Is there any strategy when it comes to reading for academic purpose, or just I just sit down in front of the book and read, 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 read? Or do you have any process? Like I'm gonna, circle the words I don't know. I'm gonna, distribute this into paragraphs. What's the process to read, but academically speaking?
Of course, Alejo, yes. When you grab a book with that intention, the reading turns completely different from reading when you are reading for entertainment.
All right.
That's the same with movies. And something that I give as an advice to my English students is to have different set of highlighters with different colors and try to circle, for example, new words, as you said, try to highlight the connectors, because sometimes when we want to have like a fluid and fluent conversation,
Sure.
we try to connect the ideas, or when we try to write in a form that is also fluent, the students say, okay, I have this idea, but how can I add another idea without using all the time the conjunction and? So that is when connectors, for example, appear. And when you have a book, since you have the transitions from a paragraph to another paragraph, and within the paragraph, you have different sentences that can be dependent clauses, and means that they need a connector because they belong to the same idea. Connectors appear. So reading has been a useful tool when I am giving English lessons to students who don't know how to connect their ideas, because
Okay.
they can see the connectors in a context and they can see the difference from addition, contrasting, giving examples, comparing.
All
And
right.
that is something that they can learn from a book, but we are reading there with academic purposes.
Okay.
Also, something that is very important is reading aloud. Sometimes
Okay.
we have silent reading, but when we read aloud, we can have with our students activities about intonation, pronunciation, the rhythm of the language itself. So the book in that moment is going to help us in a different aspect, that is phonetics and
Oh,
phonology, and also how to read in public. That is an ability that in this present time we are losing because of
sure.
social media and everything.
Wow, that's great. I haven't thought about it because yeah, I would normally read in my house just for me, but I don't think I've ever read like for people, like to read in front of people, which is something that, as you said, we have been losing a little bit because in the early years, people used to read for people, and that was a very beautiful way of communication. I've never thought about that. That's great. Thank you very much for that.
No,
Let me give you another. Let me give you another question. So a person, let's think about a person that normally reads in Spanish because they are Latin America or they are from Spain or whatever. They read in Spanish. They have this discipline of reading. But let's think about someone that is not very keen about reading or doesn't pick up many books all the time. But they are studying English. They are watching this and they are totally convinced that they need to read. What would be the recommendation? What kind of material should be reading? Because we think that, okay, reading for improving your English, so read Shakespeare, read a novel, a very old novel or something like that. What would be the introduction to reading?
okay. And first of all, I'm gonna take that example that you just said, that reading for improving your English is not reading just the classic books. And I love classic literature, but because that is a postgraduate program that I studied and it's a passion of myself.
Uh-huh.
So that is different. But if you are trying to improve your English and you give a student a play from Shakespeare that is written in an old English, you are not going to help him. You're going to frustrate your
Oh yeah,
student.
absolutely.
Okay, so that
Absolutely.
is not a good idea to improve that learning process. So I think that in our time, we have to be conscious that people live in a rush. So people don't have time for books as they used to have unless we work in the academic world as you and me. But
All right.
people who have to work for 8 hours or for two shifts along the day, they come back home really tired. They just want to eat something, to watch some TV, and go to bed,
Yeah,
go to
not to
sleep.
think, just not to think.
Yes,
Just
not to think.
ease the mind.
So in that case, you have to play with people likes, hobbies, and passions. Perhaps you are not a good reader, but you, Alejo, you love Mexican fighters and
Oh
that
yeah,
wear those beautiful masks that you
yeah,
collect.
absolutely. The Mexican wrestlers are a religion to me.
Yes, the wrestle. Yes, that's true. Or you love, for example, the classic rock with the Beatles.
Oh yeah.
That's your favorite band in the world. So perhaps you are not a good reader. I know that you are. It's an example, but you love the Beatles and you love the Mexican wrestlers and you love that. So you can find information about the things that you like and start reading those tests. It could be magazines, it could be comic books. Learning and improving English through comics is also valid and is also good because people can support the process also not just through the language but also through reading the images, and they can connect the meaning of the test and they can feel secure in that environment, and then they can move to a new challenge, a new book, because they started little by little and they gained confidence. And that is important in a reading process and in a learning process, to gain confidence first, because otherwise you're going to say, okay, I quit. I won't read. I won't continue this. I'm not good for this. But it's because sometimes you acquire the wrong tool. It's not the process. Sometimes we don't think about what is suitable for you. So if I know that I have a student that he or she doesn't like to read, even in their mother tongue, because they don't like it.
Yeah.
So we have to start, as I said, in a good way, playing with the things they like, with their hobbies and their passions, because all human beings have something that they like.
Of
And
course.
in this world, in this case, in the digital world, we can scroll down any topic that you like, you will find a test to read. So
Exactly.
you can
Now the
start
times have
connecting
changed.
that.
The times have changed, and now we have internet. I remember when I was a
Mhm.
kid, we had to go to the library, which was great. I loved it. But now we have like easier tools to do it, of course.
So for me, the clue is that if you are not a very fast reader, even in your tongue, in your mother tongue, if you it's not one of the activities that you are gonna do for a leisure activity or something that is not perhaps important for you because you just go to work, from work to home, and on weekends you have your plans with family and friends. So start reading little by little about the topics that you really enjoy, that you can really connect, because
Right.
it will move you to find more tests related to that. And without noticing, you will be improving your ability and that reading skill.
Mhm. That's great. I love what you're saying because, again, when we say reading, people think books, novels, and it's not that. You can read an article, you can read, I don't know, a magazine or something that you really love, that you're passionate for, and it's still reading, and you can get a lot from it. It doesn't have to be really heavy books.
That's true. I have an example of one student. It's not from English class. It's from the Egyptology program,
Okay.
and I give them references sometimes in English and French because are two strong languages in the Egyptology field.
Oh, okay.
And I have this is a teacher. I just know how to read, speak, and write in Spanish,
All right.
not another language, please. So he started following English accounts related to Egyptology on Instagram. And
Oh,
he by himself started, okay, I'm learning Arabic by reading the captions of the pictures. And he started taking notes in a special notebook about the technical or specific Egyptology vocabulary that he's finding in those captions. And he brings that to the classes and he said, okay, I have now references in English, for example,
okay.
but he's not reading a book, he's not reading a scientific article in a magazine. He is starting to acquire this technical vocabulary in the Egyptology field by reading those captions on Egyptology accounts written in English on
So,
Instagram.
so he's doing two things at the same time, like
Yeah.
killing two birds with one stone. That's absolutely great. Okay. That's the power of motivation. When you really look for something that you love, that you really feel passionate about it, you are gonna get that. Um, Ellie, thank you very much. I wanted to talk to you because I know that you read a lot and that you have been like this since you were a little girl. And I couldn't think about another person better to talk and motivate my students and my readers about the fact that read really helps you a lot in achieving this C1 and C2 level, which are very good things to do, very difficult to get, but possible if you commit yourself. And of course, if you take just little things like reading into your daily activities. So thank you very much for that.
No, thank you so much for the invitation, and thank you also for the students and all the people who are going to be part of this podcast because I know that this material you are designing is thinking about their needs, about what they have told you in all the different classes, videos that you have, the previous books, of course, that you publish. I know that you have many readers and many fans. I know
Thank
that. I witnessed that on the book fair. I know that. So
thank you.
it's very nice that they have also the option to start reading little by little, and then because of their own choice they can move to books like this, but because of their own choice, because that will make them master the reading skills if they start it step by step.
Wow, that's great. Well, thank you very much, Ellie, and see you later.
Thank you, Alejo. Bye bye.